Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and chess lessons for dungeon masters, right? A chess lesson, a specific chess lesson for dungeon masters. So what is the lesson we're going to talk about today? Well, this is a lesson I specifically learned from chess. I'm going to give it to you right now. Intelligent people are more likely to be mean. All right, let's talk about this. All right, so how do I know this? Well, one, there's like indicators from chess that this is absolutely true, okay? So what are some of those? So one, I play over the board chess, and that means live against a live opponent. And I also play Lee Chess. Lee Chess is an application. It's the best application available for chess, bar none. You just download it right on your phone. It's 100% free, and it immediately pairs you with a human opponent from all over the world, right? And any time of day or night, you can just log on and you could say, put me in a chess game, and Lee Chess will immediately put you into a chess game, any kind of chess game you want. Bullet chess, 1 minute. I think speed chess, like 5 minute, 10 minute, no time limit, anything you want, right? Like it'll put you right into these chess games and pair you against a human opponent, right? Now, I love Lee Chess. I play it all the time, but there was something that happened that I realized with Lee Chess, and that was it has a chat function, okay? And basically, I used to go into the chat function. I've played probably about 1,600 games on Lee Chess. I live in the by the way, it's rated. I live in the 900s on Lee Chess, so like I'm not super great. I love chess, but I'm not that great at it, but I really like it, and I'm trying to get better. I have reached over 1,000 point rating, but I live in the 900s, right? So basically, everybody I'm playing is a chess player, right? And they're actually not that great. They're actually, if you play Lee Chess, you're a really good over-the-board player, right? You can beat the vast majority of people who sit down across the way from you, right? But the reality is, here's the kicker, right? So basically, I'm playing Lee Chess, and I would get messages in the message queue while I'm playing, right? And I would go over, and actually 19 out of 20 times, it would be like, oh, that last move you made stunk. Oh, you're really bad at this game. Oh, you're an idiot, right? Like just terrible, horrible things every single time except 1 out of 20. 1 out of 20, somebody would be like, well played, right? That meant 19 out of 20 times people who are playing chess were being mean when they used the chat function. Here's another clue that this is not an anomaly for me as a player. When you go into the chat on Lee Chess, it says, here's the chat function, be nice. It's literally the only advice they give because they know that, basically chess players are generally not going to be nice, right? It got so bad that I no longer go into the chat function for any reason in Lee Chess. I'll have people like start chatting at me, and there's an indicator that says 1, 2, 3, 4. These chats are waiting for you to read. I never ever read any chats in Lee Chess. I love playing Lee Chess. I love being paired against human opponents, but I absolutely hate every single thing about the chat except for 1 out of 20. Chat messages that are sent. The vast majority of them are quite mean, quite cruel. Some of them were downright were highly offensive, right? And so the reality is, I really gave this some thought, and I'm like, the other thing is, so that's Lee Chess, right? That's over the board. In addition to that, there's a great movie called Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's about the raising of a chess genius, right? And there's a scene in that movie where, the little boy who's being raised to be a Bobby Fischer level chess master. There's a point where the coach of the child takes the father of the chess genius child and takes him to a chess club and shows him these broken, cruel, mean chess geniuses that are just arguing with each other, being spiteful and small and petty over this trivial game, right? And it was just it was heartbreaking. So here's the thing. Chess is a strong indicator that, so basically chess is a filter for smart. There are no stupid people who play chess, right? It's just a fact, right? especially not like, at a higher level within lead chess, right? Like, chess is a filter for smart. If you're really not that smart, not that intelligent, you're off playing lead checkers, if that exists, right? But basically, chess is a complex game and it requires intelligence. You're not going to run into any dummies on lead chess. It just doesn't happen, right? All right. So with that said, what do we do with this as dungeon masters in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? So I'm positing the flow is intelligent people are more likely to be mean than people who are less intelligent. Period. I'm a strong believer for this, right? Oh, let's talk real quick. Why is that, right? Well, my opinion, the world is harsh, right? For a long time, for literally millennia, we were in survival mode. Now we're in surpass mode. And all the smart people are like, I don't need to survive anymore, but I need to surpass you, right? And when you look at this world, it is broken. It is filled with competition. It is dog eat dog, right? And smart people are more likely to understand this reality and then understand that in this world, kindness is recognized by most people as weakness, right? And so that's why generally intelligent people express themselves through meanness more than kindness, right? It's totally wrong. It absolutely shouldn't be this way, but it's a reality, right? So what do you do once you understand this, right? Once you understand this reality, what do you do with it? How do you process that in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? So one, basically, it's a really good question, all right? So basically, once you realize that, get this, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is a filter for smart, which means it's a filter for mean, right? So you're absolutely likely to come across some. And by the way, there are certainly exceptions to this rule. I'm talking at the macro level. At the macro level, there are absolutely very intelligent, very kind people. My point today is their exception. They're the exception. They are certainly not the rule, right? So I'm very much talking at the macro level, not at the exception level, right? So what do you do with this, right? So you recognize that actually RPGs are also a filter for smart, which means they are a filter for mean, right? So how do you deal with this, right? So one, the way many, many, many dungeon masters have dealt with this in the past is they run hack and slash games, right? Hack and slash games are highly successful and have been successful for every single edition of the game for a long time because the numbers support it, right? You want to kick down doors and chop off goblin heads? Great. And because D&D will absolutely give you every tool you need to do it, and a lot of dungeon masters will run in that space because they know that they have smart people in front of them, and smart people are more likely to be mean than kind, right? All right, so one way you can deal with it is you can just run a hack and slash game. That might fit your group fine. But now the good thing is be aware of it. Understand why you're choosing to run a hack and slash game, right? Now that's not what I'm purporting. I'm just saying that's one method you could use, right? The other one, like, let's say this. Okay, so basically you're a brilliant GM. You're a creative, adaptive, intelligent person, right? Creative, artistic, intelligent person. You're probably adaptive too, right? And you get an idea and you want to use Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to run a game where you are in a city and the entire campaign is going to be you know, 4 players, 1 dungeon master, and you are going to run a theater house, right? Where basically your group runs a theater house. One person is like the star on stage, one person is the stage manager, one person owns the entire theater, and then one person is the muscle in case anybody, tries to interrupt the show or heckles, right? So, and there's your campaign. This is a campaign that's in your heart, it's in your mind, it's in your soul, and you want to run it, right? So how do you deal with this, right? So so the way you start any campaign, by the way, I'm not a fan of session 0. I'm not going to tell you to do a session 0. What you do is you put together your notes. You don't over plan it, right? You just, you could do this with 2 paragraphs, right? You send out your evite, you send out your Facebook invite, and you define you define the game, and you say, hey, this is the game I want to run. I understand that this is an unusual game, and this is going to stretch you as a player, and you will have to do more skill checks and more diplomacy and more social this game is more about interaction and exploration of the social, political, and cultural aspects of the city, and combat will be at an absolute minimum. Just state that in your invitation. Let your players decide if they want to play or not. Start your game with as little as 2 players and bring in new players as the game gains momentum, right? So that's one way you can handle it, is you can run exactly the game you want to play. You can invite the people you want to invite and tell them this is not going to supply you your normal dopamine supply. This is not going to supply you with your normal dopamine supply of, I got to chop off a goblin's head, right? So just giving them fair warning. Not wasting an entire session to ask the players if they're cool with doing this. Just giving the invitation, starting with as few as 2 players, right? And then adding players as you move forward to the point where you're at 4 or 5 players, and you really shouldn't be playing with more than 5 players anyway, right? So I think this is a really cool way to actually manage this issue and recognize that you are far more likely to have mean players at your table than you are likely to have kind players at your table, right? What are other ways to handle it, right? So one of the things that is you can, if you know players, right, you can very much, if you know your players and you know that some of your players are absolutely not going to fit into a game that requires the kindness of the players, right? You can simply not invite them, right? You can invite other people. And this might also mean that you need to go out and find new players for your group that are kinder, right? So you can stack the deck by choosing the right players for this type of game, right? So that's my entire presentation on how to deal with the fact that intelligent people are generally more mean than non-intelligent people. If you have an intelligent person, they're more likely to be mean than kind at the macro level, right? And how essentially in tabletop role-playing games, especially Dungeons and Dragons, basically it is a filter for smart, which means it is a filter for mean in some ways. So rather than be surprised by it, be shocked by it, get your teeth kicked in by it, see it coming and deal with it head on. I think that's the best way to go. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.